We're three millennial Latina first-time moms and entrepreneurs who connected at the start of our radio careers. From partying at nightclubs to figuring out night feeds, we've been friends for 14 years.
We're not experts, just honest moms navigating motherhood together, from pregnancy and the newborn stage to toddlerhood, one phase at a time.
We're excited to share what we've learned, what we wish we'd known, and everything in between.
Welcome to Nightclubs to Night Feeds. Episode 7. Lucky number 7.
Yes.
We're back.
And today we are talking about those first few days with baby,
Yeah.
which is like, what is even happening? What is time?
What is time?
But
what is
before,
sleep?
right? What is anything? What is life? Who am I?
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into it. But before we get into that, recently, a few weeks ago, we experienced crazy wildfires here in the city of Los Angeles, all over the city, and I think it really brought up a great discussion. I know amongst us in our group chat, I know with me and a lot of family members, and I know with a lot of people just in the city and even on social media, of how can we prepare for things like this for the future, for not just fires, but earthquakes and anything else, any other kind of natural disaster, especially as moms, as parents, not only trying to protect ourselves, but our family and our babies, you know?
Yeah.
So we had a really good discussion, and I want us to share what that looks like for us now, trying to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah. I feel like I was always prepared for an earthquake. Like, we grew up in LA.
Yeah.
So earthquakes weren't like that big of a deal to us, but also like we're prepared in a certain way. Actually, all of us are really prepared. And I have I know similar to you, Kristine, you have like closet. I have like a little closet. I have bags. I have like stuff in my car. I am ready.
The car is great. I need to have
You
that.
have to have the car.
Yeah.
You have to have everything. But then with the fire, I was like, I remember Krystal, you told me about the fire first. And so when I was observing it and monitoring it, I was like, oh, it's coming our direction.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
really close. You're more like in the
close.
foothills, so
Yeah.
you're close to the Eaton fire.
Super close.
Yep.
And so then me and my partner were like, we have to talk about an evacuation plan. What are we grabbing? What
Which
are we
is
doing?
also so surreal and scary in and of itself.
An
Like,
evacuation?
right?
In
Like,
LA?
wait, I'm an adult, and now I have to talk about an evacuation
Yeah.
plan. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. So we're really like thinking, okay, first off, we still have power, because a lot of people didn't have
That's
power in
great,
LA.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, we still
Even
have
people
power.
that were super far from the fires because of the wind. Like
The wind
a
was
lot.
nuts.
And then apparently the electricity was turned off to a lot of cities preemptively. Like they were trying to prevent future things happening, which I didn't know either. Like
I didn't
a
know
lot
that.
of cities didn't have power for several hours or like a day.
Yeah, my parents didn't have power for a little over 24 hours, but they
Yeah.
weren't close to the fires. Theirs was because of the wind.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, we don't have power and people need to come fix it, but we're not the priority right now. So
Yep.
it's like, we're not checking on you really. So
Yeah.
like, just deal with no
So
power.
speaking of like prepping for stuff, it's even just not having power for 24 hours, 48 hours, 3 days. Like what are we doing for us and our kids to make sure that we can still live, being able to eat and all that stuff, like without power.
And thank God we don't have like babies who have to drink like formula or milk or frozen milk. Because I do remember when Saint was younger, our power did go out for like a day, and I was calling the companies like, when is it coming back? My baby's, his milk is in the fridge, in the freezer, whatever it was. I'm like, I need to feed him. Like, how am I? Because you can only give them milk, you know? And I was under supplying at the time too, which we could talk about in this episode, but. Yeah, it was just really stressful. So now it really made me think what to get in my evacuation, like bags too.
Yeah.
And Kristine, you brought up really good points about like bartering items.
Yeah, I saw that in a movie. When you
Please
said
talk
that, I'm
about
like,
that.
I saw that in a movie where they're like
an
changing.
apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, it was. They're like
Yeah.
exchanging like literally just Tylenol for goods.
Yeah,
Wow.
because so a friend of mine had told me about that because a couple of years ago, I would say like right before I had Poppy, I was like, we don't have anything disaster prepped. I think it was when everything was happening in Texas, and it was like the ice storm and all that stuff. And I had a girlfriend who lives there who was telling me that the only way she was able to like text me or get in touch with anybody was because they had the like hand crank radio that can be like solar powered, and it also you could
Which,
like,
by
crank
the
it.
way, you can buy on TikTok now. That hand crank,
Yeah.
it's now on TikTok.
Yeah.
I've been getting all the ads for it.
Yes,
I'm like,
of course.
course.
Yes, because
Yeah.
we're in the area.
R.I.P. TikTok.
But
R.I.P. TikTok.
No, I'm choosing not to believe it yet. By the time this episode comes out in a week or so, we will definitely know when it's happening.
R.I.P. TikTok.
So I got ours on Amazon, and I got like a backpack too, just to have like some of the things that I didn't have access to buy like in a store. But yeah, the hand crank radio like charges your phone. It also is like, will obviously get a radio signal, and then it has the flashlight in it. So that's like number one, I think, for disaster, for us being able to like get in touch with friends and family.
For sure.
Oh my gosh. And then I also prepped a bunch of like dry foods and stuff, which when thinking about the fires, I was like, I have a whole closet. I need to like pack an actual backpack that would be easy to grab, because the closet is way too big. Like I have to consolidate. And so, yeah, I have a bunch of dried foods in there. And then I do have the things to like barter, because a friend of mine was like, in a apocalyptic type of situation, like money is going to mean nothing. It literally will just be paper. So buy things that like you can barter with people, especially like alcohol and medicine are going to be like big ones.
Have that tequila ready.
I literally have little mini bottles, and pulled out cash, put it in there, pulled out like Advil, ibuprofen, things like that, especially again with like having a child. Like I would add now like children's Tylenol and stuff like that, just in case. But when I initially packed this bag, Poppy was on formula. And so I did pack a couple of cans of formula in there.
That's smart.
Purees, snacks.
Purees, I put a bunch of snacks in there that especially like the little yogurt bites and stuff like that don't expire for like almost 2 years or something. The dried ones, because it like stays
same with
good
purees,
for a long
like
time.
they don't need to be refrigerated. So those are like, it's fruits, it's veggies, no refrigerator needed. So those are perfect.
We also, I think, talked about, we both have the burners, like the camp.
We have burners too. Yeah.
My husband packed those.
Because you never know. Like, especially obviously they're trying to get everyone to switch over to electrical stoves, and like if you have an electric stove, power goes out, you don't have power for days. It's great to have that as a backup. Also candles are a big one.
Matches.
And for matches, and they also sell matches that are waterproof. So if there is a flood or anything like that, so
I feel like Mophis too. Mophis kind of don't, like, we don't really use Mophis like how we did a few years ago. A Mophie charger for your phone.
The battery,
yeah, like the battery pack. But in these situations, my parents lost power during the wildfires, and my mom was like, I actually brought out the Mophie, and it was charged, and I was able to charge your dad's phone. And I'm like, wow, that came in handy. Like I used to live with a Mophie on my phone.
I remember that.
I used to have that on my phone, and I don't even own one anymore for my phone now. And I was like, wow, I really should invest in one. Like, that's just good to have if you need to charge your phone, because we use our phones for everything.
They also have small generators too that my brother put me on, and my partner. So we have a generator now too.
Ooh,
that good. Like it's like a Mophie, except it's just a little bit bigger, and you can plug more things into it.
How, like, what's the price range for like the small ones?
Oh girl, I don't know. Zaire bought it.
Because I think
let the men do it.
He did it. Looked into like the bigger ones and the like nice big ones that I think could like power a house.
Oh,
I think
that
are,
thing?
like,
I don't know.
1,000 to like 1,500, because we did look into it like during the last power outage. But also like keeping in touch with your neighbors and finding out what resources you guys can share is really important. Like, we have a neighbor who shares their like $1,000 generator with us, so that when the power has gone out, we've been able to plug in at least
good to have.
I know. At least one of our fridges. So we have a back fridge that's like in the garage, and basically we just plugged it into there. We moved everything from the front fridge into
all
there.
Your main
like
stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was a lifesaver for the times where we've gone like without, including on Christmas Eve. Norwalk, Downey, Pico Rivera, all of us were out of power on Christmas Eve.
What?
I didn't know that.
Some people for more than 24 hours. And they were like hosting people as a whole thing. So yeah, it's good. I don't even know what happened. I think a car hit the transmitter or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And so yeah, it was pretty crazy. So we were also without water. Yeah.
Oh my
so
gosh.
after that happened, I was already like, okay, we need to be loaded up on water. We need to make sure electrical stuff, like,
Water
we have
too.
backup.
Yeah.
Diapers.
Diapers.
Yes.
Diapers, and like if there is a universal diaper, because you don't know when a natural disaster is going to happen. You don't know what size your baby's going to need.
The cloth ones.
Cloth ones would probably be
because
is
you can
true.
change the sizes on
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
having that in there.
And then I went last night, and I kind of, because I wasn't thinking about this before, but keepsakes and mementos that like obviously are super, close to your heart. I started to put it all in one box, because when moving Poppy's stuff out, like, I was like, okay, this is newborn bin, giant bin of newborn stuff. This is like 3 to 6 months, like me thinking I'm saving stuff for if we have a next child. But what I wasn't thinking is like, I should be setting aside the super special ones for God forbid we need to leave, So last night I started going through some of her stuff that's in her closet. Like I save a Christmas pajama from every year that I'm going to make a blanket out of when she's 18.
I've seen people make stockings out of that. It looks so cute.
I'm so excited. I mean, obviously I don't want her to be 18 yet, but it's something that I'm like, I do not want to lose those. So I put those all in a bin. I put some stuff like from my sister that we have in there and just like gathered all the things to have in one place, because I feel like when you're rushing out, obviously that's not something you're thinking about. You also don't know where everything is. Yeah. You're like, wait, shoot, is that in the closet? Is that in the garage? What am I grabbing? You know? So I kind of like, I still have things in a pile just in case, God forbid, there's, you know, who knows what's going to happen. But just having all your super sentimental stuff in like one area that you can easily grab, because those are the things that are irreplaceable. And, you know, we don't want to lose, especially as moms, with like all the memories that we have from birth to like however old our child is. Yeah, like that's
the saddest
irreplaceable
thing. Yeah. Also for the bag, if you have a 2-story home like I do, which thank God for my husband, he packed us a ladder.
I need that.
A ladder that if in the case of an emergency, we're going to throw over our balcony. When he explained this to me, I was like, wait, who's climbing this? Who's going down this ladder? Me?
He said,
I'm supposed to go down this ladder?
Right, and the baby.
What? I guess I am. In this natural disaster that we are prepared for.
No, the inflatable slide, I said.
We need an inflatable slide. And it needs to be like velvet, you know? Like, it needs to be really comfy.
Oh my gosh.
No, but it is a great idea, because if you're trapped upstairs, how are you going to get out of the house? You're going to have to get out somehow through a window, through a balcony. We have a balcony, and he thought of getting, it's like a ladder that it's like those, not beads, but it's like, I don't know what they're called, but like they fold up. It like folds into a little backpack.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's tiny. I'll show you. It's crazy.
I do want to see.
This is what it's like. It's like jump rope. Remember those jump ropes?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
The big beads. Like the big kind. We're all doing this. Like the big beads. That's what it is. It's a ladder that's just like that.
To get you down to the floor is wild.
But what do you obviously hook that on?
You would have
no
choice.
It has a hook. And the hook is on the backpack. So it's like hooked.
I need to see. I want to see your backpacks. I want to see
do you also
how you
have
organize it.
2 stories?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I've also thought about too, because my brain now as like a mom, I think about death so much.
Yeah,
and also thinking,
Same.
and also thinking like I need to stay alive and like, and
yep.
It's just crazy that now I think so much about it, but I think about
it's so morbid, but it's true.
It's
the same.
So I think often, because our laundry room is right next to our bedroom, which is awesome, super convenient, but also I think often like if the dryer catches on fire, you know, and I think about that too. We're on a 2nd story, so how would we get down? So when you mentioned the ladder, I was like, I need that.
Yeah,
yep.
We got to
show you.
Yeah.
And I believe it's on Amazon, because he created these backpacks, because like everything doesn't fit in one backpack. So we all have our own backpack, and we have 2 dogs. So this man thought of harnesses for the dogs.
Wow.
So we can harness the dogs, whether they're going to be tethered together or tethered to us. There's links and like everything.
No, so like he has a bag, you have a designated bag.
Yeah.
Your son has a designated bag.
The baby doesn't have a bag, but it's like in mine and his. It's dispersed. And then the dog stuff is kind of like tied to the bags, because they're all like those little tethers. I don't know what you call those, link things.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know what they're called, and I can't think of it right now.
They link. Men use them.
A carabiner? Is it called a carabiner? Carabiner, I'm pretty sure.
I have no clue. But the link things have everything. Yeah. Like they're on the backpacks. Sturdy. Yeah, sturdy stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll share it. He made them himself, the bags. So
I want to see how he organizes it.
Yeah, and there's even like astronaut food in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I bought some
astronaut
of that and some of the water packs, because the water doesn't stay good in the bottles.
Yeah.
For like long enough. And then I was trying to think of one more thing that I grabbed.
There's also, and I'll share this too, little flashcards that will show you like plants and leaves. If God forbid you were living off plants and leaves, like you could eat these, you can't eat these. If you're sick with this, you could eat this.
Field trip to Krystal's house.
Wow.
It is a packed.
Yeah. I also packed seeds. Speaking of the plants and stuff.
Yeah,
I packed
that's
seeds.
good.
And then, I'm trying to think. Oh, you're supposed to pack like a copy of your medical stuff, like any sort of like
That's all digital now.
All that stuff. I know. But
I saw people were like saying,
I need to take photos of all of it because I don't have that stuff saved.
Not even with your doctor, like in your account.
For the
has
Kaiser,
to be there.
yeah, for sure Kaiser. But I don't have my birth certificate or like Social Security. You should have like all government issued ID. Forms,
so we should have
like
copies
saved.
of
you should have copies.
Like,
but you can
from
get
the
all
government,
that. That's my thing.
Yeah,
You can go to the
not
registrar.
like you going to like
you can go to the
Walmart
registrar and
like
like get it all. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just make sure you basically have a copy. And like I have a binder folder which I put with all the sentimental stuff.
Yeah.
Because God forbid, I would grab that with like all of our important documents in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much to prepare for.
And lastly, I do know that I saw on TikTok Shop that, well, I mean, RIP, but I'm sure you can get this stuff on Amazon too, but straws that you can drink, like universal straws that have filters.
No,
so you can like
seen
drink
that.
from like a creek or something, and like there's a filter in the straw.
Oh my god!
That like by the time it gets to your mouth, it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I need to look into that.
Yeah. I mean, I need to get it also, to be honest. I just know about it because I saw it on TikTok.
That is.
I feel like when I saw that, I was such in like a deep dive of like way deep in the hole of disaster prep that I was like, we should put a well in our backyard.
Oh my gosh, Kristine.
A well.
Oh well.
I mean, why not? If it's your land, why not?
Anyone that starts disaster prepping, you will find yourself in
One
the
day we're like, why isn't Kristine at recording? Oh, she fell in the well.
In the well.
She's in the well behind her house.
LOL.
My goodness.
Regardless, like anything that you can have prepared is best case. Obviously, these are just quick little things we're throwing out.
Yeah.
But also, the city is still recovering. Right. I think it's going to be a while for Los Angeles to really recover. And I know we have shared on our personal pages and on our podcast page of resources, and we're going to continue to do so. And our heart is with the entire city.
Yes.
And we all personally know people and families that have been affected by losing their homes and losing close things, sentimental things that you cannot ever get back and replace. So our heart is with literally the city of Los Angeles, where we're all born and raised and living, and it's just terrible. But if we can be prepared for something like this next time, that would be the best case.
Ideal.
Ideal. All right, so let's get into those first few days.
My goodness.
You know what? I remember after I had Saint, Kristine, you text me. Yes. And you said something along the lines of really savoring the time, because you said like, what did you say? You said
what did I say?
The days
we should add
the days
this text.
are short, but the years are the
long.
days are long, but the years are short. And I was like, that's really sweet. And like I didn't like click. But like, I wish it really did like process. I didn't know how fast the time really went, because the newborn stage is like this. It's a blur and it's fast, but the days
it's only
feel
6 weeks,
so
right?
long.
Newborn is technically only
6 weeks, but the days and the nights felt so long. But I remember you texted me that, and I remember I was like, man, that was really sweet that you said that to me too. But it didn't fully comprehend that, because I didn't know that it was going to be that fast, you know. But
how did you feel like those first few days? Like where were your emotions? Because they say like it's such a dip of like our hormones and all that stuff, and I think
my gosh,
everybody responds differently. But
well, of a few things to say about that. So remember, I had mentioned in the last episode that we came home. We were in the midwife center for only 3 hours.
That is alone insane, Nicole.
Yeah, it is. It's
you
nuts.
are a warrior for going through childbirth unmedicated.
Oh my God.
I know.
And
but
then literally walking out of there 3 hours later.
3 hours later. Yeah. And I remember so many women, moms too, were saying like, you'll get it. Like your instinct will kick in. You'll know how to breastfeed. And I was like, who?
Yeah.
My instincts did not kick in, because I was also still dissociating.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get out of the dissociating phase probably until a few months.
You're like, oh, he's really here.
Yeah. He's here. But still, like, it didn't click. And like, I wasn't bonding right away. Like I wasn't like, it wasn't quick for me,
Yeah.
And I remember my midwife also mentioned to me that after the 3 days after you have a baby, all of your hormones take a crazy nosedive.
Yeah.
They all drop like by 100%. And the third day, I remember that's when I felt really blue. I was like, I remember crying out of nowhere, and I didn't know why. And I wasn't also getting all the support that I thought I was going to get. And I remember telling my family, I wanted to like rest first before we started getting family to like start coming over, even though family did start coming over.
Yeah.
And I honestly resented that. and I wish I didn't allow family to come over. Like I wanted support, but I wanted support.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't get that, and I felt it was rough. It was really rough for me. And then lastly, I remember you interviewed a doctor recently, Krystal.
Mm-hmm.
It was at
the sleep doctor.
Yes, the sleep doctor.
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember he said, if you, as a new mom, if you have if you
Dr.
have all
Harvey
three things.
Kemp, yes, for the snoo.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For the snoo.
If you have to have three things, I don't fully remember what those three things are, but if you have those three things, a newborn phase is a breeze for you. And it was sleep, it was the baby eating, and it was like one last thing. And then when I was listening to that, I was like, oh, I didn't have all three. I didn't have none of those things.
Yeah.
So that's why it was so hard for me, because I didn't have any of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember you talking about how the newborn phase was actually like a breeze for you.
It was easy for me as far as the baby.
The baby, yeah.
As far as me recovering, like I feel like my whole first few months of postpartum was literally just me recovering, which was a full shit show.
Yeah.
Like terrible recovery.
Yeah.
But him as a baby, he was great. And I remember like the first few weeks, me and my husband were like, we're gonna be those people that only have one kid because we don't want to do this again. And then after the week went by, and I even told him when we had that conversation, I'm like, we need to remember how we feel right now saying that, because they say you forget.
Yeah.
And all of that goes away. And literally the next week went by and we're like, well, you know what? It's not that bad. Like, everyone says this is terrible and you're not getting sleep, but our baby has been a really good sleeper and was a really good sleeper. So we're like, we're getting sleep. This isn't crazy, you know?
Did you not feel like you were getting like the baby blues or like having like big emotions?
I didn't get the baby blues. I was really frustrated with breastfeeding.
Yeah.
But again, that's a me thing for me. That was a me thing. It wasn't the baby. The baby was great. The baby was honestly the baby handles everything great. It was things with me like breastfeeding. Why can't I breastfeed, and why is it hurting so much? And it did end up being the baby because he was tongue-tied, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so finding out that he was tongue-tied and having a lactation consultant come to my house, which was so clutch. If you can do that, if you have a lactation consultant to do that, on his second day of being home, on his fourth day of life, she came over, told me all of the things, and she noticed then, she's like, he might be tongue-tied, but he is so little, we kind of have to wait and see how he grows into how he grows, you know?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until week 9 that we took him to a baby dentist, which I didn't even know that you could do that.
No, I didn't know either.
Yeah. And they're like, he's definitely tongue tied, which is why it hurts when he latches, which is why you're getting mastitis over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And we have to correct it. You don't have to correct it, but
it would be helpful
and you're going to be in pain if you continue to breastfeed.
Yeah.
So I was like, what does that even mean? Like correcting it. And it's like this little laser. Neither of your babies were tongue-tied.
You guys did it?
Yeah, we did it.
Wow. Well, we just found out that Saint has a tongue tie, but his lips are so big, he didn't have a problem latching on.
Interesting.
Wait, but I never knew this because we took Saint to the dentist recently. Well,
but your son is a picky eater.
Yes, he's a picky eater.
Check into that, because I have a relative whose son is now 7 and a very picky eater, and it's because he's tongue-tied and they never got it corrected. So I believe they are correcting it now.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, I want to know about the process of the laser.
So it takes 20 seconds. We're there. They're like, we can correct his tongue tie right now, literally. We're like, what does that mean? It'll take 20 seconds, and it's a laser.
Right.
But we had looked into it. There's dentists that do it a different way. There's dentists that will cut with like a scissor.
Hell nah.
Or with a laser.
Yeah.
We prefer a laser because a laser, there's no bleeding. It's zzz, and you're done. They're like, we will laser correct it right now, and you could latch him right after, and you're going to feel the difference like that. So we did that immediately. Latched him right there in the dentist's office, because again, he's only 9 weeks. He's feeding like every 2 hours.
Right, exactly.
So I actually had to feed him, and I'm nursing, and I look at my husband and I say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I went 9 weeks and 2 mastitis episodes. And this was all he needed.
Yeah.
How's
the recovery was just that. So after, you have to put like this, it's not Vaseline, but it's like a lubricant under their tongue where they laser it for 2 weeks. And
It's like every hour or something you have to massage it, right?
You have to massage it morning, middle of the day, and the night.
Got it.
For 1 week. And then the second week, it's like once a day.
Wow.
Yeah. It was really quick, really worth it. And that's why we wanted to do it, because we're like, he can live a perfectly great life without correcting it, but there will be things. Maybe he could have a lisp. Maybe he could be sensitive to certain foods. Maybe he will not like to eat certain foods. There would be some things like that, you know?
Wow.
And we're like, let's just correct this now. Because I want to be comfortable. I want him to be comfortable. I don't want it to bother him when he's eating.
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yeah,
we did it. Look into it if you think or if you know that Saint is tongue-tied.
Yeah. Well, we know for sure that he is. I do want to go to Kristine too, but like I really want to say this real quick too about Saint. So he has a gap in his teeth, and so we went to his dentist. Yeah. She was like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely tongue-tied, but it's like the top of his mouth."
Oh, the top, yeah.
Yeah, and so she's like, "We can do the procedure today, the laser." She told us all about it, and the procedure kind of sucked. The recovery kind of sucked, actually. And so I was like, I don't know about that.
What's the recovery?
The recovery was we had to massage the area every hour. And I was like, he's not going to even let us do that.
Yeah.
Like, my son's super picky about everything. And I was like, but okay, if we don't do it, then what? She goes, well, then he'll just have a gap in his teeth. I'm like, I don't care if he has a gap in his teeth. I'm going to love him regardless. If he needs braces down the line, like, okay, we'll explore that. But like, not a big deal. I'm like, that's it? She's like, yeah, that's it. Just a gap in his teeth. I'm like, then I'm cool. I'm good. She's like, you can also consider doing it again after he's like 2 or 3. And I think after at that age too, then they kind of understand and they could do it themselves. So we can tell them, okay, put your finger in your mouth, massage your whatever. Yeah. And that kids can do it on their own. And I'm like, okay, if we do it, then it'll be around that age. Yeah. But that's so interesting. Because I didn't know about
the bottom, tongue-tied on the bottom. But I know you can do the top, and there is somewhere else, like, I think your cheeks can be like some kind of like tied in.
I just know that when I brush his teeth, the top, he doesn't like when I do the top. So that must be uncomfortable for him. Yeah. Oh, it's so good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristine, I want to know too about your early days also. And I know
How did you feel?
Yeah.
Emotions.
Yeah. I think we had a very rough transition from the hospital to home, which I didn't know could be or would be a thing. I felt like everyone was like, oh, they're just going to like sleep the whole time because they're so tired after labor and blah, blah, blah. And she did do that in the hospital.
Right.
For the like, day and a half that we're
when
there.
You have all the help there.
Right. Literally, she slept like an angel, pooped, ate, did the whole, all of the things she was supposed to do. They sent us home. They were like, she's eating great because she's like pooping so much. Yeah. You're totally fine. Great. So I go home. That girl screamed her head off for almost like, we got home and she slept for a few hours. My mom came over to meet her. It was during like COVID times. So my mom just like came with a mask, brought us food. And after my mom left, like for the nighttime, screamed all night. Like we could not get her to stop crying. She wouldn't latch. She was like screaming so bad she wouldn't latch. It was like she had forgotten everything that we learned at the hospital. And I was like, who is this baby? What just happened? You latched so great right after birth. Like you were feeding at the hospital. Everything was great. And now everything is a disaster. Yeah. So I've even gone back and looked at some of the videos that I took that day because I'm like, what even time was it? Like I have no idea. It's so funny because Drew and I remind each other of this like often about this like delusion that we had that we were just gonna be able to like put her in the snoo. This is literally what we did. We put her in the snoo. I like wrapped her up when she stopped crying. I had already given her a pacifier. So I'm like, here's your pacifier. Put her in the snoo. Lay down next to Drew. I'm like, turn off the lights. Good night.
The delusion.
1.5 seconds later, she's like, no, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I get up, try to breastfeed her. That's when all the craziness started. So we were up all night. This happened for like a day, and then my mom called. When my mom was talking to me, she's like, she's probably hungry because she's like maybe not latching properly. You need to get formula. I was so against getting formula that early. I was like, no, we have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. They're going to tell us like I'm not going to give her any formula until they give us the okay. Right. Sure enough, she was right. We go and they're like, weighed her after each boob. And they're like, yeah, she's not getting enough. She had dropped like too much weight just in that 24 hours.
And that was amazing because the lactation consultant brought a scale and did all of that at my house.
You can feed on each boob and they weigh them after each boob.
What?
And so they knew that she was getting more from one boob than the other, but it was still like not a combined ounce, I think. And so she had gone down from like, she was born at 6'7", she went down to like 5'10".
She was tiny.
She was tiny.
Oh my
so she went down to 5'10", and they were like,
that's scary.
we need to do formula now, and like you need to pump every hour on the hour when you get home, which I know we'll get into breastfeeding next. But yeah, it was truly like, I say those first couple of days were like hell on earth. Like I've never, it's like, one, I didn't sleep for 3 days going into labor because of the contractions.
Right.
And then obviously you labor and you barely get to sleep after that. And I feel like it was just like a marathon with no sleep whatsoever, that I was so delusional that literally after a few days I started hallucinating. Like when I was like awake thinking that I was asleep fully. And
that's weird that you say that, because I didn't hallucinate, but I heard voices. And I barely told my husband that for the first time, because we went home on New Year's Eve, and this past New Year's Eve was my first New Year's Eve at home with the baby. And I was like, it's just so crazy, because last New Year's Eve, I vividly remember laying in bed and hearing like a radio, like a guy talking on a radio, like very old radio. And I remember I told my husband this like a few weeks ago. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And I didn't tell you because I knew you were going to think I was crazy.
Yes.
But I was on so much medication, like in the hospital, and like tired, dehydrated, like all of the things. I was coming down from literally just giving birth. Yeah. And I remember laying in bed hearing this radio, and this, like, I couldn't hear what he was saying or anything. It just sounded like an old staticky radio, and I could hear like a really old style like announcer. Yeah. And I remember being in bed like, that's not real. Like, I know that's not real. Like I'm literally low-key going crazy right now, but I know it's because
but also like you could be like tapping into like your clairaudient, just like spiritual gifts.
Maybe. But
is that what it is? Because I was just gonna say I be hearing static like that. More often.
Do you hear like an announcer?
Yeah, it's like people talking, or like
this is
clairaudient. I've experienced
now people are really gonna think we're all crazy.
What is this called?
Clairaudience. Yeah, when you can like, I think it's clairaudience. Audient. I gotta look it up. But yeah, it's like when you can hear voices. Yeah. And it's sometimes you can hear voices, but
not a clairvoyant.
Not clairvoyant is
a medium.
No, yes, but like you can also, all of us have all the gifts. It's just whether we're tapped into them or not, or like how we can tap into them. But it makes sense because if we like take off all the layers, because we're so exhausted, so like it would make sense. We're at our most vulnerable space, and we're so close to like a portal, because like our bodies are portals. Where do our babies come from? Like literally from the other side, you know. So yeah, it would make sense that we tap into.
My mind right now.
It would make sense.
And it's crazy because I'm scared of like everything. Like I'm scared of everything, right? And normally,
you're like, don't show me the gifts. I don't want to know.
Like, normally this would scare me. Like this happening to me, and I remember just being so exhausted. First night we got home that I'm like, I actually don't care right now. Like whatever this voice is saying, I actually don't care. And I just went to sleep hearing it, and it was gone when I woke up. And that has never happened to me since. It happened to me like a few months after, and I was just like, and I was also like going through still like newborn like exhaustion, and I'm like, nothing happened to me the last time, nothing happened to me this time. I can't hear what they're saying. Like I could just hear a voice, and I'm not gonna
Nikki,
dive
I think
deeper.
you're about to like blow my mind.
Yeah,
because
what is
I'm
it?
not gonna lie, I've only told Drew about this like once, because I really did think he would think I was crazy. But it happens to me multiple times a week, like every time before I go to sleep.
You're clairaudient. Yeah, clairaudient means having the ability to hear sounds that are beyond the range of normal hearing. Yeah. It's also a term used to describe someone who claims to have this ability. Claims.
But what are we hearing though? Like crazy. What exactly is it?
I mean, I think that's hard to tell. That could be like ancestors. It could be God. It could be other beings.
That scares me. That scares me.
Other like your other kids, if you had other kids. Like because I always knew I was gonna have 2 children, and a psychic medium told me, she's like, yeah, they're both in heaven holding. I can see them holding your grandmother's hand who had passed away. But you can also communicate to your kids like who are not here yet, or who have passed. It could be so many different things. But because we're also spiritual beings, right? We can tell them whoever they are, that we don't want it. Like I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to hear it. You can say I don't want this gift, but also if you say that, then it's also harder to get it back if you do want it. And if you want it back, is saying like, say someone you really love passed away and you can't connect with them because you said you didn't want that gift.
It's funny because sometimes when I do see my husband fall asleep so quickly, sometimes I think the reason I told him the one time I did was because I'm like, I can't go to sleep like that because of like all the voices have to
that
like
you're hearing.
do, like, I have to get past like trying to, I try not to listen, but it's like it's still happening and I have to wait. I said like I have to wait for the noise to like calm down.
Yeah.
Because it eventually does when I'm like really down. But like the unwinding part, it's like for a while and I'm just laying there for like 15 minutes listening. And then, but it's like,
but you can't hear anything.
Words.
Yeah,
it's like
you can't
no real
understand
words.
it.
It sounds like a bunch of people having conversations.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always think like, is it previous conversations that I heard earlier in the day that are just replaying? Like I've always thought that's what it was, but they're voices that I don't recognize. So I've always thought, oh, it's probably when I'm passing strangers or something. My mind is just like reeling through the day or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Nikki,
I think also,
mind blown.
It all right, but
Who
also
knew this where this episode was going?
I know this was not where this episode was supposed to go, but that's just one of the things that like we keep in. Like I've never shared that with anyone other than Henry.
Hopefully
literally
everybody listening
ago.
is like doesn't think we're crazy, and some of you guys are like, oh, this happens to me too.
Yeah,
has to, because what are the odds that you say it and I'm like, yeah, that's happened to me too.
But there's also like spiritual hygiene, right? Where if we are this vulnerable and we're open, then other beings could be like, she's open. Let's use her as
I'm not open. Like
you can say I'm not open. I don't want
I've
this.
always been scared, and I remember I knew that when my grandmother passed away when I was like 11 or 12, maybe 13. I was younger, and I've always been scared. Like I don't watch scary movies. I don't like it just scares me, right? I don't know how to handle it. And I remember the night that she died, I remember saying, Abuelita, I'm too scared. I can't handle it. Don't come to me.
Yeah.
And my sister will get dreams of her, and I do not get dreams of her.
Yeah, because you blocked it.
Yeah.
Because you said you didn't want it. Yeah, you can say that you don't want those gifts if you don't want it. Yeah.
Wow.
Or you can also limit and set boundaries.
Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I still talk to her, and I'm like, okay, I'm like ready to see you. Like I want to see you now. I want to talk to you. Yeah. And I've had dreams where I don't see her, but I know in my dream that she's there and that we're like communicating, but I won't ever see her.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like
because
she's
like a medium.
Keeping the boundary.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That is, wow. This definitely took a turn, but I'm glad we discussed this.
Talk about this, but
Okay.
What we are going to discuss is breastfeeding more in depth. For the two of us and running on the tongue tie still, because I still want to hear what ended up happening after that.
And breastfeeding is such a journey.
The two of you are still on it.
Yes.
I'm still on it. Yeah, and you are too.
But how many times are you breastfeeding a day?
A day, maybe once a day. At night, for sure.
Yeah.
But during the day, like maybe once. Like if I'm sitting on the couch, Sam will come over and he'll be like doing like the sign language because he wants,
Leche. Yeah, I am still fully 4 times a day breastfeeding, but I want to be selfish for a little bit. Yeah. And I'm ready to just
4 times a day when he's one is like so hard.
Yeah. I'm ready, like even coming here and recording with you guys, I'm on a schedule. Like I was talking to my dad on the way over here, and I'm like, maybe I'll visit you guys after. Oh no, wait, I can't. I have to go home because I have to breastfeed him. Yeah. You know, like I have to breastfeed him when I leave. I have to breastfeed him when I get back. And so I'm just ready. And I've told my sister, like, I'm ready to be a little selfish and just not breastfeed, especially because we talk about baby number 2 possibly. And I'm like, I want space of not breastfeeding, of my body to myself for a while before I go fully back into that. And I haven't had that yet. So I can't even think of a baby of a baby number 2 seriously until I'm happens. Like, let me just be real quick for a little bit.
And that's not selfish at all.
Yeah, I think feel like it's selfish, and I think that's why a lot of moms maybe don't want to stop, because that's how I feel. And I didn't think I'd be breastfeeding this long, you know, because my breastfeeding journey was so rocky in the beginning. I got mastitis 4 times in the first 4 months. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to last 6 months. There's no way I'm going to last 9 months. And now I'm like a little over a year. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to slow it down.
Start weaning.
So we are going to get into that next.
Okay, can we just stop and just talk about how dope this recording studio is? I feel like everyone hits me about like where it's at, how cool it is, what's the situation. It's called Project Studios in Monterey Park.
Everything is here. And the staff does everything for you as well. The editing, the producing, the lighting.
The cameras.
Everything. We need that good lighting. Yeah. We got it here.
And you could create such dope content here. Like downstairs is a full production area that literally is like for music videos, big scale production. And next door, they even have a place where like you can do flat lays if you sell clothing, jewelry, whatever you sell. It's like professional level studio next door that you can use.
And it's only 9 minutes from downtown LA. And there's parking here. In LA, it's so annoying to find parking. And I know that was a big thing when we were looking for podcast space, was where in LA that we can all park and feel safe and feel comfortable. Yes. And that is here. Make sure to follow them on Instagram so you can see more of all the fun stuff they do at Project LA. And you can schedule a creative consultation at projectstudios.com.
Tell them we sent you.
So Nicole, you are still breastfeeding. Now
Yes.
it's a year and a half.
19 months.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was like, if I can make it to 12 months, that'll be like a huge deal.
Yes, it is.
But now it's like, I just kept going because there's not as much pressure. So I have been an undersupplier, I think, since day one. So similar to you, Kristine, it was like Saint was just yelling, crying, right? And I thought it was, well, no, I called my pediatrician. I asked him why. He was like, oh, your breast milk is probably coming in too strong. I got the worst advice. He was like, just breastfeed for like 10 minutes at a time and then just stop. He was hungry.
No.
And I didn't know he was hungry. So I would like have my app, I'd start my app.
But like, how could your pediatrician say that based off of what?
I don't know.
He was just trying to get you to do it in spurts so that the milk would come in quicker, basically, right?
I guess.
Because that's what they had me do with the pump, basically. It's like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and take the breaks because that's telling your body that more milk needs to come in.
But he didn't tell me.
Versus latching for longer,
Right.
I guess.
But he didn't tell me like to cluster feed, or he didn't tell me that. He just said 10 minutes and then wait for the next feed. So he was really hungry. And it wasn't until I don't even remember how old he was, but he dropped down again his weight because he was 7 pounds something ounces when he was born. He went up and then he dropped back down under his weight. I remember being like, why is he so skinny? Like his skin was like loose.
Was this the first few days still, or was this like 1 month in?
No, he was like a month in. And like we were really having a challenge. And so I remember we took him in to the pediatrician to see him in person. And the pediatrician was being sweet and was like, you know, it's rough being a mom and it's hard and I hear you and you're trying your best. And it's okay.
I hate that tone that you're giving.
It's annoying.
I hate that tone. Like,
it feels condescending, right? But then I remember afterward I looked at the paperwork when we got home and it was failure to thrive. He put on the paperwork.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
And I was like, why didn't you tell me that?
Yeah.
Why did you write that down on the paper?
Things?
Exactly. And I was like, and that hit me really hard because then I felt like I was failing my son.
Of course.
Like and I'm thinking we're having like issues with sleep too. Yeah. It was because he's hungry. And because remember he's sweating a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just felt so bad. And so I was like, I'm going to do everything that I can to build up my supply because there was such an immense feeling of shame around formula. Yeah. So I didn't want to do formula.
From who? Shame from who?
Family. Oh. And I was like, so I got a lot of shame from family. And so I was like, I just felt like I just need to build it up naturally. So I was like increasing everything I ate, like all the good things, like taking all the cookies and all the oats, all the things.
Did you do the bars, the booby bars?
I did the booby bars. I did everything.
Those are delicious,
everything.
Actually.
I baked them myself.
I love those little
my little late night snack.
Yes, those are little snacks.
This is my treat.
I had them on the nightstand. I'd be like, ooh, yummy.
I had a little cart that I would roll over.
I had the cart too.
It had all the snacks on it.
Yeah, I did all
silver lining when you're going through this.
And it's funny because this is a time that I also gained weight. So I dropped in weight like immediately, like back down to like pre-baby weight. And I was like, okay, body. All right.
Okay.
But then right. But then I had to like pick up my supply. Yeah. I gained so much weight again. And I was like, well, this is what I have to do for my son, you know? Yep. And so we ended up doing mixed feeding with also formula. That's when we found out that Saint is also, I guess, had an allergic effect to cow's milk. because every time you would give him formula, he would like projectile vomit every time. Then I posted this on my stories, and a friend of a friend hit me and was like, girl, I'm an oversupplier. Are you open to receiving my donor milk? And I was like, yes.
Yes, yeah.
So I received donor milk. So we stopped doing formula. I was still breastfeeding him, and I was pumping, and I would supplement. So maybe like once or twice, or 1 or 2 bottles a day, I would supplement with her milk.
Did she live close enough where you could drive and pick it up?
Maybe like an hour away, but we still like maybe like once a month we would go get it from her. She was, girl, she had so much milk. It was insane. And she was helping 3 moms.
Oh my God.
While also, and her son is like a month or 2 older than Saint. And so I was like okay with it, also considering her lifestyle. She's vegan.
That's what I was going to say. Like, did you ask her, like, what's your diet? Like, what are you eating? Like, are you drinking out? Like, are you drinking alcohol? Like, you want to know all of those
things. Of course, you have to know all those things too. And she was like, yeah, no, like she was not drinking any alcohol. She's vegan. She's like non-dairy. So she was really like making sure she was healthy. And so she's giving her son all this healthy stuff. So I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that he was a boy too. Something that I do not know if it's true. But something that I heard, again, do not know if it's true, is that if you get donor milk, right, from a mom who's feeding a girl, and you are feeding that milk to your boy, some of the hormones in there can affect his hormones that could later lead him to other sexual preferences, other gender identification.
What?
And the person that told me this, I don't know. So please don't like take this with a grain of salt. That there aren't enough studies. So it's like they're just now studying this to see if this is something that is true, something that affects children from a gender hormone.
Well, I feel like there's so many things that they say about the milk as breastfeeding. Obviously, like we know from breastfeeding that our composition of our breast milk changes based on the baby's needs and all that stuff. And like he was still getting that from you. So it's like any extra milk was like a bonus, because I think it's like 2 ounces of breast milk the baby has to get the full nutrients from the day of breastfeeding, which is so great. But I do remember hearing a lot about that stuff, because some people separate their AM and PM milk, because the PM milk is supposed to have like melatonin in it, and then the morning one is supposed to help like wake them up and get them started. So I feel like there's so much information around like what actually is the truth, because other people are like, nah, that's not really true. It doesn't really matter. You can mix the milk and it's fine. But it's like you don't know. Like these studies are still coming out. I think we're all still trying to figure out and decipher and learn like what is actually the most important thing, you know?
My lactation consultant, I've never heard about that. I want to look into that. That's crazy. But she did tell me, because when you get discharged from a hospital, and I know you didn't give birth at a hospital, but when you get discharged from a hospital, they give you pain meds. And that's all you get, right? You get like really high Tylenol, like the highest Tylenol.
Like 800 or whatever. Yeah.
And ibuprofen. Yes. And I remember she came on the second day that I was at home. And she's like, what are you taking? And I hadn't taken anything yet. And I'm like, nothing yet. But I do have like, I wasn't taking anything only because I was so bloated from all of the medication that I got in the hospital. My ankles were literally jiggling. And it was freaking me out, because when I would walk, I would feel them jiggle, because I was retaining so much water. And my face, I didn't get this bloated or big during pregnancy until after I left the hospital, because of all of the medication. So I remember getting home, and I was just like, I actually want to detox a little bit. So when she got there, I was like, I'm not taking anything right now, and I'm just so exhausted. I'm just sleeping as much as I can. And she's like, okay, what did they prescribe you? And I told her Tylenol and ibuprofen. And she said, Tylenol, just a FYI, I'm not your doctor and I can't tell you what to take or not to take, but Tylenol has been linked to autism in moms that are breastfeeding and taking the Tylenol. And that's a really high Tylenol. So I was like, really? I didn't know that. And so my husband and I looked it up, and there's a lot of research on that, at least. And I had never heard that. And obviously the hospitals don't tell you this. And that's just even more wild, because they're prescribing you this, but they don't tell you this.
They don't tell you.
Well, I think a lot of the time the lactation consultant and the doctors are on 2 different pages.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Way different pages. Like I feel like our lactation consultant was telling us way opposite things of what the doctor was telling us, because the doctor is like, focus on your body. The lactation consultants focus on the baby eating. And so it's kind of like, I feel like we were kind of trying to meet in the middle with what both of them were saying, because it is like, obviously you want to feel your best to be able to take care of your baby, but then also you want to be feeding your baby, especially those first few days, I feel like are so hard and like detrimental to the success of your breastfeeding journey. You know, it was just like, I don't know. I feel we got all sorts of information, but I think like for me, starting to breastfeed, it hurt. Like you're talking about the tongue tie being the pain for you. For me, the pain was like my uterus going back to like normal size.
Oh, you felt that?
Oh,
Did you feel that?
No, I didn't. I've heard of moms feeling this. I didn't feel that.
What?
No.
I didn't know you would feel that.
Feel it.
No, I didn't feel that.
Oh my God. It was excruciating for
like
me.
what? Like pulsating?
Like labor pains.
I heard
like
moms go through that too.
Pains.
Yeah.
What?
So my mom had it too like this, because when I started going through it, she was just looking at me like, I know it hurts. I know it hurts. She's like, you know, that's why she gave up breastfeeding, because it hurts so badly for her, which was the same case for me. Like I would latch Poppy on.
Wait, so you feel the uterus shrinking when you're breastfeeding?
Yes. Every time she would latch. It was like latch, take a first
never
gulp.
heard of that.
Literally my insides are like pulsating like I'm having labor again. And so I would be sitting there with her latched on, and I'd be like, oh my God. And like, poor thing. Like she's probably trying to look at me, and I'm just up here like, I'm dying. I can't do this. Wow. And I like the first few times, like I was like fully crying. Like I can't do this. I don't want to do this.
Gosh.
And it wasn't like that at the hospital, because I think down there was so numb post birth and like it was fine. But I remember the first time I did it in the rocking chair in her room at home, like I latched her and I was like, no, like nobody told me about this part. And I think maybe because a lot of people don't experience it, but it was literally like labor pains for me. And it was also like I did get like chapped nipple and like all that kind of stuff, and used all the butters and things like that.
I have that right now.
Yeah.
I have that right now, because he was like
biting you?
He was biting me, and he was getting a little fussy. Like now he's doing this thing in the morning where he wants to cuddle on me. Like as he's nursing, but he's not drinking milk anymore. And I'd be like, okay, Papa, I know. And I'll take him off, and he just starts crying. And I'm like, I don't know why this is happening.
It's comfort.
But I'm chappy, my dude. I'm chappy. My nippies hurt. My nippies hurt. And I was telling my husband, it's just like in the newborn stage. Like they literally, I haven't used nipple butter until I haven't used it in months, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know where it is at this point. I haven't put it on.
Yeah.
But they're chappy. They hurt. They hurt.
Well, I feel like 4 times a day is almost like a 4-month-old. Like you're still breastfeeding a good amount to be able to like be using the butters.
What's
and
crazy
like, all
is
that
some
stuff.
people, like when you look on Google, like how many, I look up like sleep patterns, because he just dropped one nap. So now he's one nap. Literally this week he dropped it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now what is our schedule? Like what, like now with one nap, what changes? And when you look on Dr. Google, it says like 5 feedings a day. And I'm like, 5?
No.
What? I talked to my lactation
not.
consultant, she's like 4. And I'm like, when does that drop? Because again, I'm like ready to drop, but chapped nipples, yes.
Oh my
Still having
goodness.
that now.
Yeah, the chapped nipples were rough. And I think that's the number one thing people did talk about, like that I knew, okay, they could bleed, like all that kind of stuff.
Sucked.
Obviously they don't have any teeth yet, so they're not like biting you, which is so great. But for me, I think the hardest part was like, we did see a lactation consultant, thank goodness, once a week for a month. So we have Kaiser, and so they would make us come once a week. Literally the first appointment was 2 or 3 days after birth, which I was so pissed about. But when we went in, she helped so much, and it was a room full of other newborn that were same like week as Poppy.
Wow.
So I was kind of like looking over at people like, okay, like how are it's like, it's easier when you see it and how people are like positioning their bodies. And then they would bring over like the footstool and be like, okay, your legs need to be a little bit more up and your back needs to be a little straighter, or like get comfy and we'll adjust you and put the baby where we need to.
I wish I had that.
Oh my God. It was so amazing. I would not have probably gone as long as I did. Like,
so FYI, Kaiser has that.
Yes, FYI,
Kaiser has that.
this.
If you're watching and you have Kaiser, look into that.
Yeah, they even give you a little like graduate certificate. So I have a little picture of me and Poppy when we graduated the lactation class.
They put a little graduation hat on your boob. You move the tassel. Little tassel. Little tassel.
A nipple tassel.
Little tassel.
Stop it.
So great. They really should have that.
Make those.
Yes. That's amazing.
Nightclubs to night feed nipple tassels available for purchase now.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God. Yes. It was so like, I feel I didn't know, like we're saying, like learning to breastfeed. Like I did all the classes online, saw all the pictures of the babies, latching on with,
and it
with
looks
how the
so
nipple
easy.
comes out. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, over here, it's like everyone has a different experience with the size of their boobs, everything. And I felt like because my boobs are so big, it was like, I felt like I was going to suffocate her. That was like my biggest scare was like, how is her nose going to like not be, because that was the hardest part. Like I have to hold the top of my boob down so that it wasn't going into her nose and she could actually breathe. Which like if you have big boobs, that is an issue. And I think like I also didn't know about the timing, like how we're saying, talking about the apps, like if you're planning on breastfeeding and haven't given birth yet or whatever it is, downloading the apps is super great because it helps you keep track of each side of the boob.
I never did that.
No,
I just let him chill there and I'm like, you done yet? I still do that. I just kind of like fill it out.
Because I was like waiting for, like, as she got older, I only did it for I think the first month. But just because I was an undersupplier at first, which the pump, so when I got home and they made me pump every hour for 24 hours, which was another reason why I was having hallucinations, because that first full day I didn't sleep for more than 40 minutes at a time.
Pumping every hour. So they were like, you need to do it to make your breast milk come in. So I would pump, then I would go to her and like give her some and then pump again. And so after that, they had me pumping after my feedings in the night too. And so it made me then oversupply because now my body thinks, oh no, we need to produce way more. And I didn't know that you needed to like wear like pads to sleep or anything that I could like potentially leak all over everything. So that first day when like the oversupply oh my
really
gosh, I'm
shot
so
in,
glad I don't have to wear those pads anymore.
I know. And some people don't have to wear them.
I had the
some people don't
ladybugs
leak.
because I was an undersupplier. I'm like, the ladybug from what's the brand?
I would be leaking all night.
It's a suction. No, I didn't have a pad.
Same.
I started using pads.
Oh, it like saves your milk?
It saves your milk.
I know.
It cups and it like has a
nice.
little suction to it. So
See,
if
I
I'm
wish I
feeding
would've
him on
known
one
about that.
side, I put on the other because I was an undersupplier. I needed every ounce of milk. So I had the pads for a little bit, but I was like, girl, no, I need to save this milk.
I leaked everywhere.
I was leaking everywhere. I had those pads. I had to like buy more on Amazon because I couldn't keep up washing them.
Yes. I literally woke up and I was that first day where the oversupply came in. We were, I woke up and I was like, oh no. Like I thought I was hallucinating again because I had just probably slept for 1 hour. And I get up, I'm like, what happened? And I was just like looking at my husband like, I don't know what happened. No. And he's like, what? I'm like, did something spill? I don't know what happened. And then he's like,
your
it's
milk.
all over the bed. And it literally the whole sheet, my entire shirt, pants, like everything. And then it stains because breast milk is like oily or what, like fat. There's a lot of fat in it. Everything stained. Everything. That's another thing to know. I didn't know how many of my clothes would be stained from leaking breast milk because that shit is hard to get out.
Liquid gold.
I know. Nicole, you were talking about the pressure that you felt to breastfeed from your family, and I was getting the opposite pressure. I was getting the why is it so important to breastfeed? Like,
oh, you know what? My actually my partner's family was doing that to me. They're like, just formula.
Yes.
Why are you getting?
Yes,
and I was like,
I was getting that from certain family members. Like, why don't you just formula? And then also, which I never heard this, but they were like, oh, the breast milk will ruin their teeth.
What?
And I'm like, he doesn't even have teeth.
Oh my!
I've never heard of that.
I would hear that the breast milk wouldn't fill them up as much as formula. Like give her formula because it'll like keep her stomach fuller.
Which is true because parents will rely on that for their kids to go to sleep. They'll give them formula at their last feeding so they sleep through the night, and that is true.
Tried both. We tried depending on the kid, I think, because we would formula feed some nights and then breastfeed other nights, and she would sleep better with the breast milk. And I think because the melatonin, like the melatonin doesn't really do that. Yeah. So I'd be like, maybe that's true with getting more full, but she sleeps better with the breast milk, I think, because my body is just like putting her to sleep, So I was like, don't tell me that I need to be giving her formula. It's, whatever time of day.
Right.
It's you. I definitely think, obviously the older generation that's like, we just formula fed. Like, don't worry about it. Why are
you guys are okay?
Why are you
just
so
formula
about
feed.
This? Like, who cares? I'm like, I care, obviously.
Right.
I was getting the pressure the other way, but I think whatever you decide, Like, make sure it's for you.
Yes.
Which I did give him formula in the beginning because I just didn't know what was happening with my latch and his tongue tie, when I didn't know he was tongue tied. Yeah. And I went to formula. And thank God that there is that option, right? Yeah. Like, if I couldn't breastfeed, which I thought I really wasn't going to be able to because I have implants, even though I know that you can, I just thought I wasn't going to be able to.
Yeah.
So, like, we were prepared with all kinds of formula depending on what formula he would like. And that was okay with me. But I'm still breastfeeding, and I know like a lot of my friends formula feed, and it's literally whatever works for you because everyone is so different.
Fed is best.
Fed is best.
Fed
and
baby.
A happy, healthy mom can provide much better care to a baby than an exhausted, stressed. And I say that being an exhausted, stressed mom at that time. And I wish that I would have had somebody who was more in my ear saying those things. And my mom definitely was. I wish that I would have listened a little more, you know?
Yeah. So many things that we have to think about as moms when we're breastfeeding, but as long as our baby is fed and as long as we are happy and healthy.
And those first few weeks, you will get through it.
Yes, you will get
through it. It'll be a blur, but you will get through it. We promise.
Yes. And we will talk about bonding with baby because that is a whole thing that did not come the way I thought it would happen. Same. It didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. So let's get into that. We are talking about Club Newborn, all things newborn, next episode.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Nightclubs to Night Feeds. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we are, of course, always continuing the conversation on our social media. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Nightclubs to Night Feeds. That's at Nightclubs, the number 2, and then Night Feeds. Make sure to follow us and let us know if there's a topic you want us to cover. Can't wait to chat next time.